Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Noy Shamir Heinrich.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome.
In our top story, Hamas terror boss Ismail Haniyeh is dead. Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran, where he had planned to attend the swearing-in ceremony of Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian. Haniyeh's death follows that of Fouad Shukr, Hezbollah's top military commander. He was eliminated in an Israeli airstrike on a building in Beirut. Shukr was responsible for the deadly attack on the Druze town of Majd el-Shams in the Golan Heights that killed 12 children and wounded dozens of others while playing soccer. It was the single most deadly incident in northern Israel since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war on October 7th, which prompted almost daily missile, rocket, and drone attacks by the Iranian-backed terrorist regime. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the site and vowed that Israel's response to the attack would be tough. Netanyahu was welcomed by the town's leadership and met with bereaved families. He said that the state of Israel will not and cannot let this pass.
In other news, Iran is conducting a covert campaign to undermine former U.S. President Donald Trump's presidential bid. According to American intelligence briefings, there is a strong indication that Iran was spreading misinformation in an effort to foster negative discourse and counter Trump's campaign through social media and other operations. According to the briefing, Iranian leaders want to avoid an outcome they perceive would increase tensions with the United States. That outcome would be the election of Donald Trump. Iran undertook a similar operation against the former president 4 years ago.
More than 250 Christian college students from across the United States and South Africa are gearing up for the new school year and the expected renewal of anti-Israel protests on college campuses. The students participated in Israeli history education sessions and learned how to advocate for the state of Israel and the Jewish students during the war. The students met with families of Israeli captives held in Gaza by Hamas and held prayers for their safe return at the National Mall, where anti-Israel protesters gathered to demonstrate against Israel ahead of Prime Minister Netanyahu's address to the joint session of Congress.
The United Kingdom's newly elected Labour government is considering stopping weapons sales to Israel amid its ongoing war with Hamas in Gaza. According to Israeli media reports, Israel is concerned that if the UK decision becomes reality, other countries would follow. Earlier this year, British Foreign Secretary David Lammy said his government should stop exporting arms to Israel if there was a clear risk that these weapons might be used in a breach of international law. Lammy stated that he does not plan to ban all UK arms exports to Israel, emphasizing the need for Israel to have access to defensive weapons.
A European Union representative will be attending the inauguration ceremony of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, sparking criticism from EU members. Enrique Mora, the Deputy Secretary General of European External Action Service, will travel to Tehran in place of Josep Borrell, the EU's foreign affairs chief. Borrell told the Wall Street Journal that his decision not to show up as a result of Europe's deteriorating relationship with Iran, which is at its lowest point in history. European conservatives and reformists groups, Polish MEP Adam Balin, stated in a letter to Borrell that it is not appropriate for the EU to be represented at the swearing-in of newly elected Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, claiming that the move would legitimize the Iranian regime.
Congressman Darrell Issa of California has introduced a bill that calls on the FBI to add Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorist leaders to its notorious most wanted list. Issa said the measure will serve as a powerful message to the perpetrators of the October 7th massacre of Israelis. The Republican lawmaker vowed to bring justice to the victims and their families. 11 Palestinian terrorist leaders are named in the legislation, including Yahya Sinwar, head of Hamas in Gaza.
In Canada, hate crimes against Jews are up by 71% from last year. According to data released by the Canadian Police Authorities, anti-Semitic crimes are on a sharp rise. In 2023, 900 hate crimes were committed against Jews, a 172% increase from the previous year. The CEO of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs said that despite constituting less than 1% of the Canadian population, Jewish Canadians were the targets of 1/5 of all hate crimes, revealing exactly how problematic Jew hate has become in Canada.
The United States reaffirmed its recognition of Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. In a briefing with reporters just 2 days after that deadly Hezbollah attack on a Druze town in the Golan Heights, White House spokesman John Kirby said yes when asked if the Golan Heights are part of Israel. His answer reaffirmed the Biden administration's position on the issue over the disputed region of northern Israel. In 2019, under President Trump, the United States officially recognized the Golan Heights as sovereign Israeli territory. When asked about Israel's response to the slaughter of Druze children, Kirby said the Jewish state has every right to retaliate against the Lebanon-based terror group Hezbollah. He added that it would be an exaggeration to speculate that a forceful Israeli military response would lead to a full-scale war.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threatens to invade Israel over its war with Hamas in Gaza. During a shocking public address to members of his ruling Justice and Development Party, the Turkish leader stated that Turkey must be very strong in order to stop Israel from fighting the Palestinians. He went on to say that just like Turkey entered other countries in the past, it can do the same to Israel. It is unclear whether Erdogan's comments reflect a concrete plan by Turkey to invade the Jewish state. But despite uncertainty, the statement sparked sharp response from Israel and drew international condemnation, raising questions over Turkey's membership in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization Regional Alliance. Far-right Dutch leader Geert Wilders said Turkey should be kicked out of NATO for threatening Israel, calling Turkey's leader totally nuts.
During his recent high-stakes visit to the United States, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took time to meet with two of the most important pro-Israel faith groups in America, the Jewish Leadership Bloc and evangelical Christian leaders. Before his emotional address to a joint session of Congress, Netanyahu attended a historic meeting with pastors John Hagee and Tony Perkins and the U.S. Director of the Israel Allies Foundation, Jordana McMillan. The Israeli Prime Minister expressed his deep appreciation for the community's steadfast support of Israel and the Jewish people, especially following the genocidal war of Hamas on October 7th and the ongoing fight Israel is facing against Hezbollah in the north and Iran and its proxies across the Middle East.
The Canada Revenue Agency, the CRA, notified the Jewish National Fund that its charitable status in Canada has been revoked over the Jewish group's support for military infrastructure in Israel. The CRA claimed that it found the original JNF 1967 main charitable object unacceptable. According to a statement released by the JNF Tuesday, the over 100-year-old Jewish body has stated that it plans to challenge the CRA's decision in the Federal Court of Appeal, suggesting that the move is both anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman has advocated that Israel take back the land of Judea and Samaria under its full sovereignty. He believes that this is the best alternative to a two-state solution. His comments came during a keynote address to the Israeli Knesset's Victory Caucus. Back in 2020, the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump approved Israel's annexation of about 30% of the disputed territory west of the Jordan River. Ambassador Friedman claims that after the American presidential election in November, Israel must demand control of its biblical homeland and seize the window of opportunity created by the October 7th attack and the war which followed. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here on location in beautiful Jerusalem. My guest today needs no introduction. It's Ambassador David Friedman. Ambassador Friedman, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Josh. Great to be with you.
Now, a lot of people ask me, people of faith, as someone of faith yourself, how was it to finally move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
So, apart from traditional things that people hold dear, like weddings and, family events, births of children, it was the greatest moment of my life to see that actualized. It really Came full circle, the experience I had when I was 9 years old and my parents, I woke up to find my parents crying in the living room because Jerusalem had been reunited after the Six-Day War. And it took far too long for the United States to do what it should have done, but to be the one to drive that process and to preside over the ceremony was truly the highlight of my life.
You are one of the rare ambassadors, probably the only ambassador, that really put the time in to build relations with the faith community, Bible-believing Christians, religious Jews. You put a lot of time to build these relationships. Why was that so important for you?
So people think it's just because of numbers, just because there are so many evangelical Christians, so many people of faith. In the Christian world, that it's good to have, 40, 50, 60 million people politically on your side. That really was secondary. The primary reason was because I connected. I connected with these people because their love of Israel was pure, it was genuine, it was unequivocal, it was unapologetic, it wasn't nuanced. It was, God will bless those who bless Israel. This land was given by God to the Jewish people, and it must remain with the Jewish people. And that faith resonated with me. Candidly, I wish more Jewish people felt that way. And over the past 7, 8 years, as I got to know more and more Christians and understand their love of Israel, I just came to appreciate it more. So it's something I deeply appreciated, and I just love the company of Christians of faith who love Israel.
You're all over the news right now. People are seeing this new plan that you've come out with, the one Jewish state. It's become kind of the talk of the town here in Jerusalem. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, the book's coming out in September. It's called One Jewish State, and the overarching principle is that faith and politics and economics and security, principles that have often diverged. People of faith say, we have to keep this land that was given to us by God. People of politics and economics say, look, we got to design something that's, the most democratic or the most economically feasible or the most secure. Those views are all converging right now after October 7th. People understand that the only way for the state of Israel to be safe and secure is actually to adhere to God's will and to keep all of the land that God gave them. And that's, so this is a book that advocates from many different perspectives, from military to security to economics to faith. It advocates for Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, and we make the case why that should happen. It's a long book, it explains it in detail, but ultimately that's the theme of the book.
Since October 7th, no one's talking about a two-state solution. It's dead. Yet the Biden administration they keep pushing it. Why do you think that they think it's relevant still?
The two-state solution is the mother's milk of the Democratic Party. It's just never going to go away. No matter how many items of evidence you throw at them to show that it can't happen, they'll keep coming back at it. I mean, after October 7th, for Joe Biden to talk about the fact that the answer to this barbarity is a Palestinian platform for more barbarity, I mean, it was not just tone deaf, but it was truly insane. Most rational people understand it can never happen. The book makes clear why this can never happen. I don't know why the Democrats cling to it, but they cling to it with almost a religious fervor. And unfortunately, their views are going to crash on the rocks of reality in the Middle East.
Bible-believing Christians are the base of the Republican Party. No Republican get elected to the presidency, to the Senate, to the House without being pro-Israel. Yet the majority of Jews in America still vote Democrat. With all the rise of anti-Semitism, do you see that changing?
I think it will. I think this will be hopefully the watershed year where Jews kind of wake up and recognize that their home is the Republican Party. The Republican Party both stands for a strong Israel, unapologetically, and the Republican Party is willing to take the steps necessary to combat anti-Semitism in America. What are the steps? Stronger police force, more federal enforcement of hate crimes, deny funding to these elite universities that don't protect the Jewish people. It's not complicated. Okay, it can be done. But the Democrats won't do it because they're going against their base. The Republicans will because these are values that are held strongly by the Republican community. So I think I'm hopeful. Listen, we need to wait and see, but I believe the Republican Party will gain much more Jewish support this cycle than before.
By any metric, the Trump administration was the most pro-Israel administration in the history of the America-Israel relationship.
Sure.
Golan Heights, Jerusalem, the Iran deal, UNRWA. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yet some people say that, oh, Trump has a shaky relationship with the Prime Minister of Israel. Maybe he'll change his opinions. We don't know what he's going to do. Well, what's your answer to that?
The relationship between Trump and Israel goes far beyond any single person. And I think even if Netanyahu is the Prime Minister of Israel, which I expect he will be, he's the elected Prime Minister and he's got 2 more years to his term, that relationship will be fine, because it's not about personalities, it's about the strength of the connection between the United States and Israel. I think Trump gets that. He feels strongly about it. His family stands strongly behind it. And it doesn't concern me at all. It doesn't, I just think I think it's one of those kind of chattering issues that people like to talk about. Is there some bad blood, or, no, forget about that. These are grown-ups running countries that have incredibly important strategic relations with each other, and those will continue and strengthen.
Ambassador Friedman, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Look, I think, it's important to understand that the state of Israel, as important as it is to the people who live here, and we're here now, 7.5 million Jews, 9 million people, the state of Israel is critically important to people around the world, and it's facing challenges now like never before, facing challenges on its southern border, on its northern border, on its eastern border. Economic problems. This war is going to cause Israel to run budget deficits they haven't seen before. Israel needs help. We have to help it, because at the end of the day, a strong and secure Israel is the means by which America achieves a massive strategic advantage over its enemies. And it's also the way by which we bring upon God's blessings. So I encourage everyone who's watching this to join me in supporting the state of Israel, and in particular, supporting Israeli sovereignty over biblical Israel.
Thank you, Ambassador Friedman, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
And now, the truth from Zion.
In recent years, TikTok has emerged as a major platform for social engagement, especially among younger generations. However, it has also become a breeding ground for the alarming spread of anti-Semitism. This growing trend poses a significant threat to Jewish communities worldwide and raises serious concerns about the impact of digital hate on society. TikTok, with its vast user base and viral content dynamics, has facilitated the dissemination of anti-Semitic tropes and conspiracy theories. Since the platform's inception, there has been a troubling increase in videos that propagate hatred against Jews, including Holocaust denial, glorification of Nazi symbols, and dangerous stereotypes. These harmful narratives are often masked as memes or satire, making them more palatable and harder to regulate. Additionally, anti-Semitic content often blurs into anti-Zionism, where criticism of Israel is used as a cover for spreading hatred against Jews and the Jewish state. Such content often garners millions of views, likes, and shares, spreading misinformation and hate to a wide audience. This not only normalizes bigotry, but also desensitizes viewers to the seriousness of anti-Semitism, undermining efforts to combat hatred and discrimination. The impact of this spread is profound. Jewish communities report increased anxiety and fear as online hate translates into real-world threats and violence. The normalization of anti-Semitic rhetoric on TikTok contributes to a hostile environment where Jewish individuals feel marginalized and unsafe. This digital hatred also influences younger audiences, shaping their perceptions and potentially fostering a new generation of anti-Semites. Addressing this dangerous trend poses significant challenges. TikTok's algorithm is designed to maximize engagement. It often amplifies sensational and controversial content, including hate speech. The viral nature of these videos highlighted the platform's role in the rapid dissemination of hateful content, regardless of its sensitivity or potential for misinformation. While the platform has made efforts to remove hateful content and ban accounts that promote anti-Semitism, the sheer volume and creativity of such content make comprehensive regulation difficult. Moreover, the anonymity provided by TikTok allows perpetrators to evade accountability and continue their cycle of online hate. In recent months, TikTok has become a platform for the alarming spread of anti-Israel narratives that portray Israel as an illegitimate state, falsely accusing it of widespread human rights abuses and perpetuating inflammatory stereotypes. Videos promote boycott movements, glorify violence against Israelis, and distort historical facts to delegitimize Israel. This content, frequently presented as activism or satire, can amass millions of views, rapidly spreading biased and harmful perspectives. This digital hatred undermines Israel's efforts to foster understanding and peace, both within its borders and internationally. Media coverage in Israel often highlights instances where anti-Semitic content on TikTok has gone unchecked for extended periods, sparking outrage and calls for action. Israeli lawmakers highlight the need for stronger measures, demanding that TikTok implement more rigorous content moderation and enforcement mechanisms. Israeli politicians and news outlets have vehemently criticized TikTok's management of anti-Semitism on its platform, viewing it as inadequate and deeply concerning. They argue that TikTok has not been proactive enough in combating hate speech and incitement against Jews. They believe that social media platforms like TikTok have a responsibility to prevent the dissemination of harmful and discriminatory content that fuels hatred and division. In April of 2024, the U.S. government passed a law that would effectively ban TikTok in the United States. The spread of anti-Semitism and hate speech on the platform was one of the reasons for the legislation. The dangerous spread of anti-Semitism on TikTok is a pressing issue that demands immediate attention. Balancing the regulation of detrimental content with the protection of free speech remains a key challenge. Legislators around the world are working to develop frameworks that prevent the spread of harmful rhetoric on social media platforms without unduly restricting legitimate expression and debate. Only through vigilance, education, and collective action can we hope to curb the tide of digital hate and foster a more inclusive and respectful online space. Up next, the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Today we're excited to be in Migdal HaEmek in the north of Israel, and what we're going to see today is the opening of a new home that's going to be assisting people who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. The ICEJ has been privileged to help with the establishment of this beautiful home, and we're here to bless it as the people begin to come.
I will tell you just a bit about this house, and first of all, thank you very much for your generous donation and help us to open that place. It was needed before the war, and it was started to establish before the war, and the war is coming, and now the needs is like here, really. We have 3 psychologists with different fields, like most about the trauma, most about EMDR, stuff like that. We have amazing crew of instructors that living here 24/7 and making all the non-formal relationship treatment, which is how to find the balance again, how to find the safe place again.
Since 1980, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has been a voice of Christian support for Israel and connected the global church to the land of the Bible. Headquartered in Jerusalem, the ICEJ has taken action to stand with Israel by caring for Holocaust survivors, helping Jewish families return home to Israel, providing bomb shelters, fighting anti-Semitism around the world, and by inviting Christians to discover Israel for themselves.
First of all, we are extremely privileged to be here today. Your nation deserves to live in peace and security. And
Amen.
we hope soon houses like that will not be needed anymore. But right now, we do everything to enable this Israel, this nation, to return back to normality as soon as possible. And we want to do the best what we can to help in that.
Amen.
It's a privilege for us.
Mazal tov. opened this house less than a month ago. We have an agreement with the Ministry of Defense, and we see many people that came from that field, from post-traumatic syndromes. Sometimes it's from recent time, from that war, and sometimes it's from different wars. That war is just resonated and brings it back to life sometimes. We see people in high level of anxiety. Something starts going wrong. They start having some post-traumatic symptoms. Psychoeducation is also part of it, to normalize it, to normalize what's happening, and to build the progress together, to explain how we treat with that, how we treat with post-trauma syndrome, and helps them to believe that they have the force to pass it. I feel blessed, and to know the Christian embassy, and to be able to see how many amazing things you're doing around the world. I feel that you are solid ground in a very shaky time for Israel in general. For me as Israeli citizens, for me as a Jewish, you are very solid ground for us. And I want to thank you a lot.
After Hamas brutally attacked Israel on October the 7th, 2023, the ICEJ has been actively standing with Israel and her people through advocacy and urgently needed aid projects. Now is the time for Christians to turn their love for Israel and the Jewish people into real action as never before. Your donation will help deliver bomb shelters to at-risk areas, provide necessary supplies for first responders, care for evacuees with food, shelter, clothing, and trauma care, and will eventually help rebuild these devastated communities. Visit ICEJUSA.tv to donate online or call 1-800-910-6355 and give your generous gift today.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Noishamir Heinrich.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.